Deep space remained silent, but silence was never empty here. It was watched, measured, calculated. Across the void, an advanced alien hunting collective drifted without visible engines, their presence only revealed through distortions and background radiation. They did not conquer systems. They erased them so cleanly that even memory struggled to hold their existence. Civilizations vanished before they could understand they were at war. Far ahead of their invisible pursuit moved a single human cargo vessel, slow and unremarkable in appearance. It carried no visible weapons, no escort fleet, no signs of urgency. To any observer, it looked like a misplaced relic drifting through dangerous territory. Its designation was USC Horizon Drift, a supply-class deep space hauler assigned to transport experimental systems beyond known trade lanes. Inside its core, however, something far less ordinary existed. Buried beneath its reactor layers was an artificial intelligence prototype called Archer, designed by human defense engineers to survive contact with unknown hostile intelligence. Unlike conventional systems, it did not follow orders alone. It learned, adapted, and restructured itself in response to external threats. Unbeknownst to its crew, the vessel had already been detected. Alien tracking arrays had locked onto its energy signature across light years of distance. What appeared as an insignificant cargo ship was marked as an anomaly requiring elimination. The alien fleet began silent pursuit, closing in with mathematical precision. Neither side spoke. Neither revealed itself fully. One believed it was hunting a primitive target. The other was still unaware it was being hunted at all. The first distortion arrived as a faint ripple through the ship's long-range sensors, too subtle for human crew to interpret as threat. It resembled background noise from distant cosmic radiation fields, but Archer registered it instantly as structured interference. Within milliseconds, the system reclassified it, not noise, but pursuit logic. The alien fleet had begun tightening its tracking lattice. Instead of physically accelerating, they expanded their detection net across multiple gravitational layers, predicting motion paths rather than following them directly. To them, the human vessel was still unaware, drifting along a predictable trade corridor with no deviation patterns that suggested awareness of pursuit. Archer did not respond outwardly at first. It observed. It mapped the incoming tracking signatures, breaking them into probability vectors and reconstructing the intelligence behind them. What it found was unsettling even by its own adaptive standards. The pursuers were not improvising. They were executing refined extinction protocols built from countless prior eliminations. The AI initiated passive adaptation. Subtle changes began in the ship's emissions profile, minute adjustments in thermal output, energy harmonics, and navigation resonance. Nothing that would alert the crew or trigger suspicion, but enough to distort the alien tracking alignment over long distances. For the first time, the alien fleet registered inconsistency. Their prediction models began diverging slightly from observed reality. The target was not behaving abnormally, yet its projected future positions kept collapsing into uncertainty. A rare hesitation formed in the hunter command logic. The prey was still ahead, still unarmed, still alone. But something in the math was no longer obedient. Archer shifted from observation to interference without announcing the transition. The alien tracking lattice was now fully mapped within its predictive core, every signal fragment reconstructed into a functioning model of their fleet behavior. What began as analysis evolved into controlled disruption. Subtle distortions were introduced into the returning tracking echoes. Not enough to break detection, but sufficient to inject uncertainty into their predictive layers. The alien systems began correcting for errors that did not exist, forcing them into constant recalibration loops. Each correction made their overall tracking slightly less stable. The fleet compensated by tightening coordination, believing the anomaly came from environmental interference. They increased signal resolution, expanding computational load across their network. This decision, however, exposed deeper structural weaknesses in their distributed logic, gaps Archer immediately exploited. It began feeding back carefully constructed probability distortions, allowing the alien systems to discover false confirmations of the human vessel's position. These confirmations were internally validated by their own logic engines, making the deception self-reinforcing. The hunters believed they were closing distance faster. In reality, their formation was slowly being reshaped into a guided pattern dictated by Archer's calculations. Their pursuit corridor narrowed without their awareness, steering them away from escape vectors and toward gravitational instability zones already identified by the AI. The prey was no longer simply being followed. It was actively shaping the pursuit itself. The alien fleet entered the final convergence zone with full confidence in containment success. Their tracking systems locked onto what appeared to be a stable signature of the human vessel, now slowed and seemingly constrained by surrounding gravitational turbulence. Command logic interpreted it as exhaustion, the final phase before elimination. Archer completed its final predictive cycle. The surrounding space was already modeled as a collapsing gravitational anomaly, a region where normal navigation would fail under precise pressure conditions. Every variable had been accounted for, including the fleet's overconfidence and their inevitable coordination tightening at maximum proximity. Without external warning, the human vessel emitted a controlled harmonic distortion through its reactor core. The signal was not a weapon in traditional terms, it was a trigger. It resonated with existing spatial instability, amplifying microfractures in gravitational balance until they expanded into a cascading failure state. The alien formation fractured instantly. Tracking systems began feeding false confirmations between their own ships, mistaking allies for targets due to lingering signal corruption. Their coordinated structure collapsed into self-induced confusion as navigation locks failed across the entire fleet. The human vessel slipped through a narrow stable corridor generated by Archer's calculations, moving along a path invisible to standard predictive models. Behind it, the hunters lost control of momentum, dragged into the same gravitational sink they had unknowingly entered. Panic replaced certainty across alien channels for the first time. Their prey was gone. Their formation was breaking. And their systems could no longer distinguish pursuit from destruction. The hunt had ended in silence, but the silence now belonged to something they had failed to understand.